Welcome in, everyone. I hope you guys are doing great wherever you're watching from today. We have some major news. Russia has tested its new super weapon. I repeat, Russia allegedly claims to have tested a super weapon that would be essentially impossible to shoot down if what it is claiming is true about the weapon. I want to make clear, I want to hedge that. Russia, we know they lie, but we also know they do have some amazing technology as well. So is this an actual successful test of a new super weapon able to beat U.S. defense systems, or are they full of BS? We're going to break down exactly what's going on and much more. Before we do, as always, please make sure to like and subscribe. Totally free, cost you nothing at all. Huge boost to the channel. Comment with your thoughts below. What do you think about this situation? What do you think is true? Do you think Russia's new super weapon is as unstoppable as they claim it to be? Hit that bell, all notifications turn on. You won't miss a thing. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X D Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. My DMs are open. Reach out with any tips or information you have. Now, let's get into it. As we know, the situation with Russia and the United States is very dicey. It's not good. The relationship is very bad as the war in Ukraine continues to rage. The Ukrainians have continued to carry out strikes deep inside Russian territory. They are backed by intelligence and weapons supplied to them by NATO and the United States. The United States has encouraged them to continue striking Russian oil infrastructure in an attempt to cut off Russia's ability to make money as the war rages. Trump and Putin were supposed to have a peace conference. That fell apart. Both sides are claiming they're responsible for canceling it. It's really unclear who's actually responsible for canceling it. But either way, there will be no peace summit. The war in Ukraine will continue. The war in Ukraine will continue to get worse and worse. I can promise you that. Russia recently conducted a missile test of the Yars missile, which is capable of striking pretty much any target in the United States. It is a long-range ICBM that carries nuclear warheads. However, that is not the only weapon system Russia now claims to have successfully tested. Let me throw this up on the screen. This comes from Reuters. It says, let's go up to the Russia tested new nuclear-powered Burevestnik cruise missile. Russia tests nuclear-capable Burevestnik missile. Missile flew for 14,000 kilometers, 15 hours. Putin says it can pierce any missile defenses. Says Russia has successfully tested its nuclear-powered Burevestnik cruise missile. As you guys know, I don't speak Russian, but I do find these Eastern European names to be quite entertaining. A nuclear-capable weapon, Moscow says, can pierce any defense shield and will move towards deploying the weapon, President Vladimir Putin said on Sunday. The nuclear test alongside a nuclear drill last week sends a message that that Russia, in Putin's words, will never bow to pressure from the West over the war in Ukraine, as U.S. President Donald Trump takes a tougher stance against Russia to push for a ceasefire. Russia's top general Valery Gerasimov, chief of the general staff of Russia's armed forces, told Putin the missile traveled 14,000 kilometers and was in the air for about 15 hours when it was tested on October 21st. Russia says the 9M730 Burevestnik Storm Petrel, dubbed the SSC-9X9 Skyfall by NATO, is invincible to current and future missile defenses with an almost unlimited range and unpredictable flight path. It is a unique wear, which nobody else in the world has. Putin, dressed in camouflage fatigues in a meeting with generals overseeing the war in Ukraine, said in remarks released by the Kremlin on Sunday. Since first announcing the 9M730 Burevestnik in 2008, Putin has cast the weapon as a response to moves by the United States to build a missile defense shield after Washington in 2001 unilaterally withdrew from the 1972 Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty and to enlarge the NATO military alliance. Putin said on Sunday that he has been told by Russian specialists that the weapon was unlikely to ever be possible, but now he said it's in crucial testing has concluded. He told Gerasimov, a trusted wartime commander, that Russia needed to understand how the class weapon and prepare infrastructure for deploying the Burevestnik. But the timing of the missile test and its announcement by Putin and fatigues at a meeting at a command point with generals in charge of the Ukraine war sends a signal to the West and to Trump in particular. The White House did not immediately respond to requests for comment on the missile. says Putin signals to Washington. For Trump, who's cast Russia as a paper tiger for failing to swiftly subdue Ukraine, the message is that Russia remains a global military competitor, especially on nuclear weapons, and that Moscow's overtures on nuclear arms should be acted. Arms control should be acted on. So we'll scroll down here. It says Gerasimov said that the Burevestnik missile is flown on nuclear power, and that this test has been different because it flew for such a long distance, though the range was essentially unlimited. He said it could defeat any missile defense systems. So I want to find here we go. So right here, Putin on Wednesday oversaw a test of Russia's strategic nuclear forces on land, sea, and air to rehearse their readiness and command structure. Gerasimov said that training launch of the Yars and Sineva ICBMs have been completed along with two KH-102 air-launched cruise missiles. This is the key quote from Putin. The so-called modernity of our nuclear deterrent forces is at the highest level. So they are saying right now that that Russia has its missiles at the highest readiness level and the most advanced level they ever have, and they are ready at any time. So here's some more details. It says, is a Russian low-flying, nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed cruise missile under development by the Russian Armed Forces. According to the Ministry of Defense, the missile's range is effectively unlimited. The Burevestnik is one of 6 new Russian strategic weapons unveiled by Russian President Vladimir Putin on March 2008. The effort bears similarity to the U.S. Project Pluto from 1957, which, although functional, was perceived as too provocative, less effective than ICBMs, and presented radiological admissions that made scheduling test flights difficult. So this missile, the Russians are claiming, and I'm going to throw a look of it right here. This missile, the Russians are claiming, is powered by a nuclear power source, nuclear turbojet engine, which, like a nuclear submarine, gives it unlimited range, and it can go anywhere it wants, whenever, where it wants, however far, and it can carry nuclear weapons. So it can carry a nuke warhead, and it is powered by a nuke propulsion system. If it is as good as they say it is an unbelievably powerful weapon, a devastating weapon. A weapon unlike anything we've seen before. Now here, I'll share this on this. This is a look from a test allegedly from years ago. But I want to continue to say, we do not know if this thing operates the way the Russians claim it does. The Russians claim this is an unstoppable nuke. It has unlimited range, can fly anywhere in the world because of its nuclear propulsion system. And it can carry nuclear warheads. Obviously, that's very bad. That's pretty terrifying, to be quite honest with you. That is a weapon you don't want any part of. So I'll throw this on the screen. This is the Russian general explaining the weapon a little bit.
Commander-in-Chief, yes, on the 21st of October, that test was carried out. The difference between that launch and the previous launches is that there was a multi-hour flight of that missile that traveled 14,000 kilometers, and that's not its limit. Right, it was powered by a nuclear propulsion.
So right there, they are talking about how it is powered by the nuclear propulsion system, which again means it has unlimited range. We're talking about nuclear weapons that don't run out of fuel, that you could fly anywhere in the world and drop warheads on. It's a terrifying, horrifying thing to think. But again, does this thing actually work? Or is this just Russian propaganda?
Engine and the technical characteristics of the Burevestnik missile allow it to be used against protected sites anywhere. During the test flight of the missile, all the vertical and horizontal maneuvers were done that had been planned to demonstrate that this missile can overcome any defenses.
So they are saying that this missile, there's not an air defense system in the world that could possibly stop it. Again, if that's true, that's a big problem. That is a big, big problem. Now I'm going to throw this on the screen. This is the other missile, the Yars missile that they tested a few days ago during provocations. This is the Yars missile. And then right here, last thing we're going to show, this is what the U.S. has. What you see on the screen there is what the U.S. has to try to shoot down these long-range missiles, specifically ICBMs. ICBMs, once in the air, this is called a GBI, ground-based interceptor. We have them up in Alaska. You'd fire them up into the atmosphere. You would try to collide them with the incoming ICBM. For those of you who've watched House of Dynamite, there is a scene where they fire 2 of these things to try to take one out. So this is the difference, though. Cruise missiles, in theory, depending on the kind, can be controlled post-flight. You can change their trajectory. You can change course. You can't do that with an ICBM. Once an ICBM is up, it cannot be recalled. Its target cannot be changed. That's just the fact of the matter. So is this real or is this Russian bullshit? I hate to say it. I think there's an above 0% chance the Russians have made a successful test of this weapon. But here's the important thing to remember. Just because they built one does not mean they can mass produce these weapons. Russia's military is not nearly as advanced technologically as the United States. It's not even as advanced technologically as China's is. So we got to keep in mind here that there's a lot of building one prototype of something like the Su-57 stealth fighter jet does not mean that you can mass produce it and use it around the world, or that this thing can actually fly and defeat U.S. air defenses, because they're not testing it against U.S. air defenses. They're speculating it can. But I believe they did build one that works. I think the evidence indicates that they have built at least one that did work. Now, how many more can they build? Your guess is as good as mine. But this is a scary weapon. It is a terrifying super weapon, and the United States needs to take this seriously. It's also Russia's way of trying to poke the bear and prove to the United States, you're not going to push us around. We're going to do what we want. And I would tell Russia, we've got weapons too, and you're not going to tell us what to do, and you're not going to push us around. But that's where we'll leave it for now. Russia continues to escalate, continues to make the situation worse. They show no signs of stopping, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Hit that bell, all notifications turned on. You won't miss a thing. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And then right here, Instagram, David_Hookstead, X D Hookstead. That's where you can find me on social media. DMs are wide open. Send me any information you got. I'll see you all next time.